All right, cool. Welcome to Sprint Demos. This is Sprint 55, Fleet version 4.83.0, codename Cesium. So now we're going to Cesium cool new features coming out in the next release, and I'm going to hand it off to George.
All right, I appreciate that dad joke to start us off. And kicking us off first for MDM is gonna be Jordan.
Jordan is
So
out today.
Oh,
yeah, he has a
apologies.
couple of videos ready.
Yeah, that's true. Gabe, did you want to share them, or shall I be the video DJ again?
I can bring him up. I don't have him up right this moment. Share. Oh, okay, share sound. Okay.
Hi, I'm going to demo some new functionality we've added to allow admins a little more control over their setup experience for their users on macOS hosts when they use end user authentication. Our user story is, as an IT admin, I want to let my end users edit their macOS local account name and full name during first time setup so that they can use an alias. And so we've added a new advanced options checkbox under the existing end user authentication option. And then you can see this here on my fleet instance. This is a fleet level setting, so it can be different on different fleets. When you turn on end user authentication, this is enabled by default. However, and it will be enabled by default for fleets that already have end user authentication turned on. It's also enabled by default if it's not specified in GitOps and end user authentication is turned on. So we're maintaining the existing behavior for existing fleets and existing admins. However, if you specify it during the API creation call of the fleet or during a GitOps run, or you manually turn it off in the UI, you can get the new behavior. And so I've got a macOS host here that is just about to go through setup. And so I'm going to click enroll. It's going to prompt me to log in with my IDP. And so this is going to enroll. It should be a pretty quick process. There's not much on this fleet for setup.
Tension. It's killing me.
So what's happening here while it's waiting for the management server?
It's
Hold on.
negotiating with
Okay,
them,
now
with
this is
Fleet and with
finished
Apple.
enrolling, and you can see that I can edit my account name. I can edit my username. I can still enter my password as usual. But now we've just got some more options. And of course, it is still locked if the admin leaves the setting disabled. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on that feature? I see there's a lot of chats.
No, that's
Uh,
great.
okay, cool. I didn't realize it was that long of a delay.
No problem.
This is the next story me and Jordan worked on. I think he goes over it in the video, but this is for add a strict CSP. This is currently being worked on the front end as well. That bit hasn't gone in. Let's watch the video. Maybe it goes over that, and if he doesn't, I'll mention it after this.
Hi, I'm going to demo some functionality we've started working on. It's currently a work in progress, so this is part one of a two-parter to add a strict content security policy to Fleet. Our user story for this part one is, as a Fleet contributor, I want Fleet to serve a content security policy when I'm testing or dogfooding it so that I can begin testing Fleet with a content security policy to enable by default in a release in the near future. And so this is currently disabled by default. This should not be used except for development purposes, and it's behind this Fleet server enable CSP environment variable. And when you load a Fleet server, you see that this is, there's several things broken here. Anywhere that you would normally have a tooltip, there's some kind of strange doubling. There's several different places where styles in particular are broken. However, you can see over here on the response headers that we are serving a CSP. And this is for an HTML page, so it has a nonce as well that can be passed to components that need to run scripts or inline styles. Our assets also have a CSP on them, a little bit stricter because a nonce is not needed. And similarly, our API responses all have a content security policy, that stricter content security policy on them. And so we've scoped out the second phase of this work. We've fixed, the bare minimum that we found as we began investigating this to scope out and figure out what breaks when you enable a CSP in Fleet, what needs more attention. As mentioned, there's a few components that need follow-up work, which is why this is disabled currently by default. However, in a release in the near future, we're going to fix those things and to ship this enabled by default as a defense in depth mechanism. It's really considered a best practice, and in particular helps protect against other vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting by making those potential vulnerabilities basically impossible to actually exploit. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, he covered it pretty much. The bit that I'm working on currently is all those bits that weren't looking quite right. Yeah, that's going to take a bit more time than Jordan was able to do the back end bit. So that's why it's not going in. And like Jordan said, the back end bit that he did for the policy is turned off by default currently. But when my bit is finished, then we're going to turn it on by default. Any questions on that? See a couple chats.
Is there a write-up on that anywhere, Gabe, that has more in-depth information?
I've mostly seen the ticket, and then I know I think in just various Slack chats, I'm not sure there's like an exact document. I know the issue came up from, I think, one of our customers who kind of flagged one of that being a security issue. It's a good question. Actually, I think maybe Luke, would you know if there's a document?
Yeah, I put in the issue initially. It was something that was flagged by a customer, but also something that was already on our radar due to a disclosure that we had received. It would make good content for an article, Brock. So if you want to follow up with me separately, we could discuss that change because it's definitely a good one from a security standpoint and just protecting the production environments of our customers, which is extra important right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Gabe.
All right.
Next up, we've got Magnus to demo his stuff.
Thank you. Let's see here. Let me pull this up. Cool. So I'm going to demo this one here first, the Windows Device Scope Profiles Verification without OS Query, and there's a short video for it. Hi everyone. Today I will demo this story which reads Windows Device Scope Profiles Verification without use of OS Query, And the user story reads as the following. As an IT admin, I want to verify Windows configuration profiles using only the Windows MDM protocol response so that I can avoid false failures for settings that were successfully applied but weren't detected by OS Query. And the reason for this is we had some special cases with encodings and whatnot that caused, as mentioned here, false failures, specifically like C data profiles or more complex profiles. And they would end up never being fetched by OS Query due to our verification protocol and leaving them in a failed state instead of the actual verified state. So our guide update for this will be under the custom OS settings articles, and we will remove the blurbs about like custom Windows configuration profiles goes through OS Query verification. There's a couple pieces, also the special Windows behavior about like ADMX profiles and whatnot. Custom encoding will remove all of this because now it will just solely rely on what Windows provides us. So let's see it in action. We have this Windows VM here with two OS setting profiles. They're both verified. I can go in here. I can add a new profile. And this one you can see is one with like C data, which normally is one of these profiles that would fail the verification, not always, but some. And then here we can see we have pending for this new profile I just added. Normally, it would go to verifying first, and then you would wait on always query to do move it to verified or failed if it couldn't. But now we should see it immediately goes to verified from pending and does not go through the verifying process. And that's it. And that is, of course, to mention that if it failed on the Windows protocol, it would, of course, go to failed. So now we no longer have those false positives and we can rely on what Windows implements. Secondly, there's a contributor PR from Wes, and that one is a contributor server config to skip MDM declaration validations. There's not much to show, so I'll just quickly read it out here. As an advanced Fleet user, I want to enable my Fleet instance to accept all Apple declarations, activations, and assets that are not supported in Fleet currently so that I can manage critical system services and test all declarations. And before this, we disallowed some certain declaration types because we wanted to make sure that people didn't shoot themselves in the foot by deploying certain declarations. But we also acknowledge that some people need like more customization. So there's now a contributor variable called MDM allow all declarations, which basically skips our built-in forbidden logic and allows you to pass in everything if you think you are in control of the system and you know what you're doing. So thanks for that, PR. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Magnus. And last up, we've got Sarah.
All right, let's see. I've got a pretty quick demo for you. Let me share my screen. So this is a story that as an IT admin enforcing OS updates on my macOS hosts. I want to update macOS hosts when they enroll to Fleet only if they're below my minimum version so that I can onboard faster if they're already on or above the minimum version. So this is a feature we've had for a little bit, but we've refined it with additional customer feedback. So the documentation lives here in this guide on enforce OS updates. And you can see what we'll be talking about is this update new host to latest. So go over here into my local instance, and I have we're on the Ninja's fleet, and we've set it up previously so that we have a minimum version of 14.7, a deadline, and this update new host to latest box hasn't been checked. So for Ninjas at least, there will be no enforcement of a minimum OS version when a macOS host goes through ADE enrollments. So let's go over to different, I'll go over to Ninja Turtles. And here we've got it set up to where we will update new host to latest. And in this particular case, so if a new host shows up through ADE, and for whatever reason it's on something below 14.8.4, let's say that it was erase all contents and settings for an ADE host, and it's going to come back in at that point in time, return to service. It will be forced to update with this configuration, be forced to update to the latest version of macOS. So what is that now? 26.3 point something. So we would expect to see that here. Again, if you had unchecked the box, that wouldn't happen. There's also an option to not have the minimum version specified at all. So if we were to remove the minimum version, remove the deadline, you wouldn't have any host updating via DDM after the fact, but you would ensure that all of your new hosts are updating to the latest macOS version. Some customers prefer that. And one other thing to note, we've added in this release a little bit of additional verification. So if you were to specify a minimum version that isn't supported by Apple, we would alert you that that's not an acceptable version. So we wouldn't, you go back and pick one that is. So we also support the setting via the GitOps flow, and you'd see very similar behavior there. Any questions?
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's it for the MDM team. We're rolling on to software. And next up is going to be...
Sorry, I do have a quick question on I really like the baselining for the OS update. Is there a plan to embed this into both Linux and Windows as well? Something like this?
No, you want to
This
speak to that?
Not this year, no. We're focused on Mac, iOS, and iPadOS features, but potentially in 2027 and 2028. Yeah. For Windows, actually, we already have a pretty simple OS update. So Windows is covered. Linux, we don't have any plans right now.
Sounds good. I think I really enjoyed the feature. That's why the question, but thank you, Noah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up, we've got Jonathan on the software team, going to share the new feature for patch policies.
Hey, yeah, let me find the share screen button. Share sound.
Hey everyone, this is a recording to show off the new patch policy for fleet maintained apps feature. So, as an IT admin, I want to create a patch policy for my fleet maintained apps so that the policy is automatically updated for me when my fleet maintained apps are updated. So, let's go to this team where I have a host. Let's go to software and this 010 editor installer, which I have at version 16.0.3. So patch policies are policies with a query that is automatically generated by Fleet, and it checks if this Fleet maintained app is up to date on a host. It's no different than any other policy, except that the query and platform are automatically generated. So let's create one by going to the Actions dropdown and clicking Patch. We want more about the automation. And let's add it. You can see there's a new table here under the installer card, which shows you policies that are related to this installer. We have this patch policy here. Let's go to the policies menu and we can see we have a new filter here. So we can filter by software automations or scripts or other or any other type we want. So the name, description and resolution here are automatically generated, but you can edit them if you want. But the query and the platform can't be edited. So the query first checks if the app is installed, and then it checks if the version is up to date. So in our case, 16.0.3. This version is based on the installer we have available, and not necessarily the newest fleet maintained app for it. So we don't need to click save, but we can do that. And now I will run this policy on a host that has 010 editor installed. Okay, I'm back. So it looks like the policy ran and we have 010 editor version 16.0.3 installed. So now I can run this job and we'll see that it's updated. And now let's update this installer version to the newest one using the GitOps version pinning feature. So I'll change this to version 4. And I will run fleetctl GitOps. And now you can see this is at version 16.0.4. So now our patch policy will be updated. It has version 16.0.4. And if we run it again now on this host, it will fail. Okay, so we waited for this refetch and we can see the policy is failing. So what we can do is now add an automation to actually install this 010 editor whenever the installed version is not up to date. So we'll just click here. This is a new feature of this page where you can just add the automation without having to go to a separate menu. And we can now go back and we see we have this software automation available. We can filter by it instead of having to go here and add the software. If we go back to the installer, we'll now see in the policies that it's a patch policy and it also has an automatic update for it. So let's run this again. Another quick time skip, we can see the policy is failing and now we'll see the app is updating. So let's wait for that. Okay, now we're back and we can see the app is up to date. And if we go to 010 editor, it's at version 16.0.4. So it's installed now. And if we go to this software, you can see everything is fine. Okay, so one more thing. So if we add, let's say, one password now, let's delete it first. And then let's add it. You can see that now we have this deploy slider, where it will automatically install software. So let's add it. And this created an automatic install policy, but this is not a patch policy. This just checks if it exists. So we can also add a patch policy. And if it's separate, then it will show up as a separate policy. And now, because we have these policies, we can't delete this installer yet. So we can delete the install software. But there's still the patch policies, so we still can't delete it. But if we get rid of this patch policy, we can now get rid of this app. So yeah, hopefully this will streamline working with software and policies together and make it easy to keep hosts up to date.
Yeah, just saw two more videos, so just bear with me. This is just to show the GitOps part. So just answering a question from chat. So all you need to do to have these policies up to date is just add a fleet maintained app by the slug. So if you go to so if we just add, we don't need this actually. If we just have this, then any GitOps run will update the fleet maintained app. And then when you have a patch policy enabled for it, so you see this one doesn't have a query, so it will just automatically generate the latest version for you. So I think that explains this video pretty much. It just shows you that once you updated the version updates, so no action need for the version pinning. That was just to showcase. And just another video showing some of the front-end stuff for the adding installers has changed. This one might be a bit louder.
Hey everybody, Rachel here. I just wanted to go over one more change that we are pushing with the patch policy feature in 31914. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the current UI and the new flow that we are using. So our current UI, when you are adding software to a specific team, I'm going to go ahead and click on that for you. So this left side is 4.82 and prior. So we click on add software, and then you can see here that we have three different options. You can add a fleet maintained app, an app store app, or a custom package. And when you are adding those apps, to go over one more change that we are pushing with the patch policy feature in 31914. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the current UI and the new flow that we are using. So our current UI, when you are adding software to a specific team, I'm going to go ahead and click on that for you. So this left side is 4.82 and prior. So we click on add software, and then you can see here that we have three different options. You can add a fleet maintained app, an app store app, or a custom package. And when you are adding those apps, you're presented with a lot of different options that we are now going to be removing from this flow. So we can add self-service, automatic install, we can target hosts based on the labels, etc. And we're now going to be cleaning this up. And the reason that we are doing this is because we want to keep the ad flow very focused and fast, so that way our admin users aren't thinking about how to roll out this package, but just getting this package in fleet, and then they can care about how to roll it out afterwards. And that kind of makes this happy path a little bit shorter and reduces the cognitive load on adding a package into fleets. So I'm going to show you on the right side. This is as of 483 what we are doing for our flow. So I'm going to click on add software. And again, this is for adding software in any of these categories. So if you were to add, for example, fleet maintained app, instead of being presented with all of these options, you are now only being presented with deploy. And deploy is the former automatic install. slider. So you can automatically install only on hosts missing the software. This will create your policy for you automatically when you add the software. And this is to make a kind of match a clear mental model of, hey, I am creating this software in my fleet, but now I'm going to be configuring it separately. So once you added this software, since I clicked on deploy, you can see that we have this policy that was automatically created for us to install the software if a host fails this policy. And then for you to actually deploy it, you will go to edit software here, and this is where you can customize all of your options. So the option for self-service is in this edit software modal, along with customizing your targets on which hosts you're going to be deploying the software onto, along with all of the other advanced options down below, and rolling back if you're using GitOps and fleet maintained apps. So now all of the options to configure are in this edit software modal, which encourages reviewing the configuration before deploying to your hosts, as well as preventing any kind of accidental wide deployment at creation. And that is it.
Okay, I think that's it for the patch policies.
Quick question on the policy. Does it stay once done, or does it actually auto delete itself once it has successfully run through its cycle?
Well, the host will refetch once we update the installer, if you update the new installer. So it will pass the next time. Like it stays the same, but it just passes after the correct version.
But it will remain as a new policy inside the policy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like any other policy you add.
Okay.
The only difference is it's automatically generated.
All righty. Thank you for that question. Thank you, Jonathan, for presenting that. Next up, we've got Carlo.
All right, thank you very much. I'm coming in here. All right, can you see my screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, so this one is a very small change, no demo per se, but I'll go through all of this. This one is as an IT admin, adding a script-only package. I want the ability to add a script using path so that I can have a convenient way to add a script or YAML file. So this is what it looks like. In practice, in software packages, we want the user to be able to reference a YAML or .sh file as the path and show an error if we specify a file other than one of these types. And I would call that also that we do support Windows script files as well on this change. And that's pretty much all there is to this one. It's a small one. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Next up, we've got Haziel.
Hello. I didn't think I was going to demo this, but then I had an idea for how to do it. So like I thought I was just going to talk about it. But let's see if it works. And it's just going to kind of go through the 3 different attempts that it makes. All right, so now we try it again. And we will try one more time. Maybe this isn't as thrilling as I thought it was.
Live demos are always thrilling.
I know, maybe it'll break.
We need to teach your file server to do drum rolls.
I know. I should have had it do like print out some little like jokes or something. Or that like one of the Star Wars movies is like available as like a shell script you can run, and it's like all animated. And
yep, A New Hope.
That's a classic.
Yeah. All right, so I tried 3 times, and it'll give up here in a second because it errored every time. But before you would have hit this error right off the bat, and now we are retrying. So yeah, that's basically it. Just gonna hang around here and watch it fail. Yay. Cool. yeah, hopefully this makes GitOps runs a little bit more reliable and work on things like temporary network issues or things like that. All right, that's it. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Haziel. And then next up, I'm going to be sharing a video from Martin, but I do want to warn in advance that I do believe this is a little quiet. So turn up your volume as best you can.
All right, so this is the final engineering QA pass for this story, Android web clips or deploying web apps. I will focus in this recording on the UI changes because the rest have already been covered in other recordings. So there's not much. There's just that we can use the application ID generated by a custom web app in the when we add an Android software, and after that, in the software title, in the software titles page, we can see a few differences. We can add edit configuration from the action menu, and we don't display the version of the web app because this is like the version is handled internally by Google's API, so we don't have any control on it. So let's go with this. We'll first create a web app. This should create, oh no, right, yeah. I will first turn on MDM and then go ahead with the test. Okay, so MDM is now turned on. If I create my web app, there we go. So if I take this App Store ID, I can go to Fleet, Software, and unassigned, and here I can create the Android app with this application ID. So that's the first part of the UI. Well, it's not really a UI change, but just a supported feature now. And let's see, when we're in the software title page, which is this one, so it should have type application Android. We probably don't want version here because we don't display it here. So my guess is that we should hide this. It's not displayed, so I think that's correct. There's no host on which it's installed currently. I can install it a bit later on. You can see that we cannot edit configuration, and below here web app, there's no version, so it doesn't show version latest, so that's correct. Yeah, so now I will enroll my Android device and install it, so we see some more statistics with the host count. Okay, so now my host has enrolled, and I did install Chrome and my web app during setup experience. So you can see Chrome is already in the bottom, but ChatGPT, well, which is the name of the web app I created. So it's all installed correctly now on the device, and you can see here how it shows up in the list of software. Now if we look at Chrome for a comparison, so you can see that the version that we are seeing here is actually the count, the number of versions. So that's correct that it shows up. It's installed on one host. Version here is the latest. It's installed here too on one host. If I click on this, it's my Pixel. So this is how it looks for a non-web app. You can see I have edit configuration here. So if I go back and look at available for install, my ChatGPT, which is my web app, the version count 1, which is correct, I think. We do show the version actually here, so I don't know if that's desired behavior. I would think so, but there's no indication of this in Figma, so I will ask Marco just to confirm. On one host, and here too you can see web app, and the version is not shown here. And it's installed on one host, which is my Pixel, so it looks good to me. I will just confirm how we want, because the Figma doesn't mention anything. Well, I think it's okay because it's here too. So yeah, actually I think it's exactly how we want it. There's no dev note about this section. So yeah, looks like everything is as expected. And yeah, the configuration edition, edit configuration action is not there as we want. So looking good.
Alrighty, and that concludes the software team's contributions to the sprint. Back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Great stuff, everybody. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Sharon for orchestration and security and compliance.
Thank you, Luke, and amazing work by MDM and software teams. We'll start with security and compliance team. So in previous episodes of Fleets, you have seen that certificates grew, and we have SCEP for Windows and for Mac, and we have NDES for Mac. And in this episode, it'll be NDES on Windows. Victor, take it.
All right, thank you, Sharon. So just want to point out that we were actually able to pull this story in from the next sprint into this sprint. It was originally planned for next sprint. So it was important because it is an activation blocker for a customer. And it's a short-ish video. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. In this feature, we're enabling issuing certificates from an NDES on our Windows hosts. So Windows joins macOS host with support of NDES. As an IT admin, I want to deploy certificates from my NDES certificate authority on my Windows hosts, device and user scope, so that I can grant end user access to Wi-Fi and VPN. So in my Fleet instance, I already have NDES configured. And so what I then do is I set up a profile, XML profile for Windows. So I have all these settings here, including the subject name. So this is my subject name. It includes the OU, the renewal ID for certificate renewal. I do have a CA thumbprint as well, which is required for Windows. And then what I've done is I went to my host and I deployed it on my hosts, and it is verified up here. So let's go and take a look at my hosts. So here I look at my certificate. So first I did deploy the root certificate, which is required. And then I go to my personal certificate and I do see it right here. It was deployed. I can click into it and see details, subject. Where's the subject? And you can see the OU here. So it will be renewed. Now let's go and take a look at the documentation. So it does involve a bit more. We're going to be updating our this article, and it's going to be a bit more involved for Windows. We do need to have the root CA certificate on the device for this to work. We also must have CRL, certificate revocation lists. There's a quick workaround that can be done for testing. And then we'll have the actual profiles here in the documentations, pretty much exactly as I've specified. You'd need to figure out your own thumbprint. And let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I think I added a few more small comments here, troubleshooting and things like that. All right, that's it. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you. Any questions for Victor? If not, next we'll talk about the bypass ability. So in last release, we introduced a way to bypass a block on conditional access, and we modified it this sprint, and Dante will present it.
Hello, let me just share my screen here. Remove experimental condition access bypass enabled policy setting in favor of critical. You may remember from our previous release, we added a new feature that allowed users to selectively choose which policies could be bypassed and which couldn't in conditional access. That feature has matured a little bit, and we've removed the specialized conditional access bypass enabled policy flag and simply used the critical flag in favor. This has come with a couple of changes. You'll see here, if we look at my Fleet UI, the checkboxes that used to be here are now gone. Policies that are critical and therefore not allowed to be bypassed now have a little shield marker. You'll see there also have that shield marker in the policy list page. We'll see that this flag is now set by the critical checkbox, which previously didn't really do much of anything. What's come with this as well is the migration of the settings. So we actually have a full flowchart here, but it's quite simple. If global Okta conditional access was configured and the team policy was configured such that the setting was enabled, and there was a team that had that which I just mentioned, and conditional access bypass enabled was checked on the policy. So that means if this had previously had in this setting the checkbox enabled, it is now marked as critical. Otherwise, no other critical flags were changed. This change has also come with removing the GitOps flag that was added for this feature, conditional access bypass enabled. And that is no longer generated by GitOps or will be accepted by GitOps, and we will now just use the critical flag to mark a policy for bypass. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Any questions? Okay.
I'd also like to mention, sorry, that Jacob did the front end for that feature.
Thanks, Dante, and thanks, Jacob. And next we have Tim and Jacob presenting work they did on rotating macOS recovery log passwords. Tim, I assume it's you?
Yeah, that is me. Okay. As an IT admin, I want Fleet to escrow a unique recovery lock password for all my macOS hosts so that I can share these passwords with end users to help if they forget their local macOS password. So it's hard to talk about recovery lock passwords without talking about the recovery partition. So if you're old and crusty like me or Brock, you remember the single partitions on macOS devices, and OSs were named after cats. And we used to use Firewire drives and Target Disk Mode and Carbon Copy Cloner. That changed in macOS or Mac OS X Lion. They added a recovery partition, so it's been around for quite a while now. But this marked a bit of a shift in how things are done, because this recovery partition allowed you not to, boot from external devices, but you can do a lot from the device itself. You could hit Command R, boot into a new partition, and do all kinds of sorts of useful things. Reinstall OS, repartition your disk, wipe the disk, etc., etc. Those are great things, but they also have some drawbacks. If I were a nefarious actor, I might want to reinstall the OS to disable management for this corporate device. I might want to steal it. I might want to wipe important forensic data. There's also a nice root terminal. I don't think I need to go into why that's dangerous. And also there's a nice reset password utility as well. So back in the Intel days, Apple offered us an EFI password to kind of protect the recovery partition behind the password. And that was useful. It had a bit of a drawback in that you could actually manage it via root access. So if you had, if you're an admin on your machine, you could mess with that. Later, I think it became an MDM command, but still there was some conflict there. Things changed quite a bit when Apple Silicon came out. It retained a lot of all the same functionality. More security was introduced. I think startup security, in particular, on Apple Silicon devices. And so away went the EFI password. It was an Intel-only mechanism. So what does Apple do? Well, around the same time, Apple Silicon came out. MDM had really kind of taken off to the point that it wasn't really an optional management framework anymore. It's pretty required, and so a lot of features, or some features, started coming out as MDM only. And to address this gap of protecting the recovery partition, they came out with the recovery lock password. So recovery lock password is a MDM command. If you use Fleet today, you could use this command. You might even have a workflow that requires you to, kind of keep track of your own passwords. You can set it. You can do verify as well. You can run any MDM command through Fleet today. So that's a possibility. But as of Fleet 4.83, we're making it native. So let's get into demo. So in Fleet, I'm going to navigate to Controls, OS Settings, and you will see a new Passwords tab here where I can turn on Recovery Lock, the Recovery Lock password feature. This is per team, as is MDM as a whole. I'm going to save it. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate to my VM. And yes, you can test this within VMs. As you can see now, I have a recovery lock password. It's verified, happens very quickly. I now have this option here to show recovery lock password. And I'm going to show it here because this is just a local test device. And there it is. So what do I do with this? You may ask. Parallels has a nice option to be able to start your macOS VM in recovery mode. And there we go. Recovery is locked with this password. I'm going to enter a bad password here. It's going to reject it. Now I'm going to fetch this password again. My UI. And I'm now in the recovery partition. Actually, I will be in a second here. Perfect. There we go. But that's not all. If you noticed from a couple places in the UI here and via the API, you can manually rotate passwords. Let's see. YZLA, I'm going to rotate this. It happens very quickly. Let's see. So if I need to refresh my page here. There we go. Oh, we are still pending here. Oh, we're still pending because I'm in the recovery partition and it cannot receive MDM commands. So I'm going to restart. Let me show you the pending state here as well. Just a reminder that it will be grayed out if the recovery lock password is not available. There we go, we are verified. This is now available, and we have a rotated recovery lock password. Show one more thing. If we disable the feature, it will clear the password from your devices. So now let's see, let's give this a sec. See, we're now in pending. Should say pending removal. Now it's verified, and the view option no longer exists here. A couple more notes. As far as the generated password, the general goal is to make it secure but keyboard friendly. And what that means is it's all alphanumeric. It's a 24-character password. Excludes easily confused characters like 0 and O. Very important for us. It's encrypted at rest. We took security very seriously in this feature. And this is more of a native Apple mechanism, but it is MDM migration friendly. So if you already have recovery lock passwords set in your current MDM and you are migrating to Fleet, Apple takes care of that for you. Once the enrollment profile is removed from a device, Apple removes recovery lock passwords natively. And that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Tim Lee. And thank you, Jacob and Tim, for this nice feature. Any question for Jacob or Tim?
Is the special characters in the password rejected on entry in the UI? Is that what you're saying? That
The
it
passwords
only
are Fleet generated.
right? Oh, I see. So it just won't generate a password with those characters. Okay, got it.
Correct. Yep.
Tim, did you say it's OS dedicated to cats or cats?
Cats. Cats.
I wasn't sure. Okay.
We're
Next, for security and compliance. You know that Fleet, when Fleet is evaluating softwares on hosts, we take information from multiple locations and integrate them. And speaking specifically about Linux, we want to move from a source of information about vulnerability, which is OVAL, to another source, which is OSV. This is not a deliverable yet, but it's definitely a step forward that Konstantin did, and Konstantin will present a POC with a lot of information on switching from OVAL to OSV. Konstantin, take it, please.
Thanks, Sharon. Grab some of my content. As Sharon mentioned, we do security scanning for vulnerabilities is kind of a core offering of Fleet. And he mentioned that security vulnerabilities are obtained from a number of sources, such as NVD and VulnCheck, and Oval is one of those sources. So what is Oval? Open Vulnerability and Assessment Language. In case you were wondering. It's an XML-based standard. It was created in like the early 2000s, and it's currently maintained by the Naval Information Warfare Center Atlantic, and it's co-sponsored by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Security's Office of Cybersecurity and Communications. That was a mouthful. So it's pretty legitimate. It's a very legitimate source of vulnerabilities, and its focus is primarily on Linux distributions like Ubuntu, Debian, RHEL. And each distro has a different OVAL format and schema. A defining characteristic of this is that it groups vulnerabilities by something called a USN, Ubuntu Security Notice, and it's not grouped by individual CVEs. So OSV, it's a JSON-based standard. It was pretty new. It was created 5 years ago in 2021 by some folks at Google, and it's maintained by the Open Source Security Foundation, and it's got a much larger breadth of distributions: Ubuntu, Debian, RHEL, Alpine, Alma Linux. So it's much more broad in general. So despite it being new, why pick OSV? I think, as I mentioned earlier, the defining characteristic of Oval, in particular for Ubuntu, which we're piloting here, is the grouping of vulnerabilities by USN. which is actually what makes it a challenge to use. So during the So what do I mean by grouping by USN? So for instance, here's an example of USN 71531, and you can see they group these CVEs here. So Oval will attribute this CVE here to Emacs common, which is actually a false positive, and this CVE, which is a correct CVE, and OSV does not group it by these USNs. So it's easier and we get less false positives. So in this POC here, I took the OSV data and a sample set of Ubuntu 22.04 hosts with about 40,000 unique software items from the OS Query Perf software database. You can see here, this is running with OSV data. You can take a look at some software. So it does identify vulnerabilities pretty well, actually. Some key insights looking at the software CVE table, which is what joins software with vulnerabilities, is we have about 1,800 more unique CVEs that were detected by OSV. On the same data set as Oval. And more importantly, it's much better with recent CVE coverage, which is really important because historic CVEs are not as needed. And there was about 2,700 additional kernel CVEs that were detected by OSV. So if we do switch scanning, our customers will generally see about 20 to 30% more vulnerability notifications on their software. And I mentioned earlier that we will reduce some false positives due to Oval's grouping problem. An example is that Emacs common piece of software on Ubuntu 24.04. Oval flags it with a CVE of 24,30,205, and OSV does not flag it incorrectly. So there is definitely some benefits, but not all is well. OSV does have some drawbacks. Oval did perform better with CISA, known exploited vulnerabilities, which are very important for our compliance-focused security programs. So we are going to need to figure out how to deal with that gap. And some organizations also might have some hard requirements for SCAP compliant tools. Oval is an SCAP compliant tool, and OSV is not. So that's something we're going to need to alert our customers about if we switch. And next sprint, we will be introducing this with a feature flag. So it will be turned on and customers will by default get OSV security vulnerabilities and be able to swap back to Oval. Any questions? I know, such a thrilling topic, security vulnerability scanning. All right. No questions. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Konstantin, and expect this work to be done next sprint, so coming soon. Switching to orchestration team. First, we have Juan in a host where we have multiple users. We want to prefer the users that the email that we get from IDP, and Juan will explain better.
Thank you. Can you focus on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this PR was originally done by Alan. I just reviewed it, I did some tests, and took the credit for it. So basically, let me read the story first. As an IT admin, I want Fleet to choose the right user when a host has multiple users to receive, maintain, and window calendar events. So basically, what changed here is the order in which emails are chosen for creating the calendar event for maintenance windows. So the new rules are as follows. So first we consult IDP sources in this order. Then we look at Chrome profiles. And then we look at any other sources. And in case of that we need we have like a multiple options for a single source, we take them by alphabetical order. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Honestly, I don't have a demo prepared for it, but yeah, that was the feature.
Okay, thank you, Juan. And next we'll move to Nico, who will show improved host search by end user email address and something that is a bug that we want to present. Go ahead, Nico.
Sure, sharing 1 second. Okay, here goes the first one. To demo the fix for multi-team users can bypass observer query limitations in some scenarios. As the issue describes, there is a user here which is maintainer on workstations canary fleet and then observer on workstations. Also, there is a report which belongs to workstations canary and has the observers can run setting enabled. And when running it as a live report, basically we are able to target workstations. And as you can see, there are 78 hosts there. And basically that's the issue. We should not be able to target this team, even this fleet, even though we have the observer can run setting enabled, because this setting should only take effect for the fleet that the query belongs to. In this case, workstations canary. So what we decided to do as a fix was to disable the selection of this fleet workstations, as you can see here, and also to add a help text saying that the results are limited to fleets you can access. So for the demo itself, I have this user, which has different roles across different fleets. So I have a different window, and I am logged in as that user, as you can see. So I have this report. If you see, it belongs to the server's fleet and has the observers can run setting enabled. So let's run it. You can see that the help text is there, and these two fleets are disabled. Why are them disabled? Because the user is observer on those two fleets, and even though the observer can run setting is enabled, the report belongs to servers, so it has no effect on these two fleets. That's why these two are disabled. So just to show you, I have a single host on servers canary, which is one of the disabled fleets, and then I have another one on servers. The others have no hosts. So if I select servers, I get one host targeted. Of course, I can't select this one. If I select macOS or all hosts, I only get that one back. And then even if I attempted to target this host using labels such as these ones, I'm not able to. I get no host targeted. And lastly, if I try to target it within this search, I cannot do that. So basically, these two ways of targeting hosts also match the behavior here on the fleet selection. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. And last but not least, we have a contribution from Zach. I will show it quickly because I don't have a demo, so I cannot demo it, but it's something that we will watch for the sake of time quickly. So these are two tables that Zach add. You all know we have two ways to add tables. One is directly to the OS query core code, and one is through the fleetd. And these ones were added directly to fleetd. First table, add local network permission and Wi-Fi network. I'll just read the story. As a customer interested in parity with the MacAdmin's OS Query extension, I want to use the local network permission and Wi-Fi network tables on macOS hosts. So that is available now. Again, I can demo it. I don't have a demo, but this table is available now. And the second one is add additional columns to the App Platform SSO fleetd table. I'll read the story. As a CPE managing macOS devices with Fleet, I want to see more columns in the App Platform SSO table. This is helpful to verify that the user registered Platform SSO and to see if the Platform SSO authentication method is set to secure enclave, smart card, or password. Any questions about the tables? And obviously, these tables are by default on fleetd, but customers that run OS Query alone can still add this as a external table, so that's also useful for them. And Luke, back to you. That's concluding the security and compliance and orchestration.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Great stuff. Great demos. Lots of good stuff to look at, which means we have 15 minutes left for first impressions and probably not time to dig into spotlights and bug fixes. All of that is in the agenda. Lots of good stuff there. Encourage you all to take a look at that. So last up, we have the first impressions working group, and I'm going to hand it to the best software engineer we have on the working group, and that is Scott.
Yeah, by far, number one with a bullet. Yeah, lots of good stuff this sprint. Big shout out to Noah and Mike and Luke, and also a huge shout out to Ian for being a great rubber duck and doing lots and lots of reviews on this. So kicking it off, I'm just gonna share everything. We're doing it live. So the first thing is this sprint was mainly focused on GitOps improvements, things that hopefully would delight our customers and fleeties alike. So the first one we have here is unknown key validation in GitOps. Story says, as a Fleet user opening a PR to my YAML using an AI agent, I want Fleet to validate unrecognized keys so that I can see an error that I can fix. I would say this is not just for AI agents. I think at Fleet we cater to both people with corporeal bodies and agents alike. So this is something that should work for everybody. So if we go over to my current instance, this is the workstations team I have, and I don't know if y'all can spot it, but there is an illegal key in here, right here under our controls. What's it? What is that? Nobody knows. So if I try to run this now, we will see an error occurred, unknown key controls dot what's it. So if you stick just a random key in there, it doesn't work instead of just ignoring it, which is what would happen before. But what's really good about this and why we really wanted to do this is because people would mistype keys a lot. So like, for example, something we saw a lot is people accidentally typing, say, query instead of query. And if we do that, we get something better than just an error. We get a suggestion. It says unknown key. It tells you where the key is, and it says, did you mean query? And then also, because the required key is missing there, we still get that required error. This works at all levels. So if we change settings, it'll do a similar thing. Did you mean Apple settings? So that is unknown key detection. We still have the same thing at the top level. It'll just report unknown keys. It's always done that. So that is there. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, how do you find the suggestion?
Oh, Mr. Levenstein. You got to look up Mr. Levenstein. It's It's a very old and time-honored way of calculating the distance between two strings by assigning a score basically to how many insertions or deletions or changes you have to make. So the way that the unknown key detection works in general is kind of similar to how we're doing our API key renames. It's going through the structs that we have, finding all the valid keys, and then when it detects that there's one that's not in that set, it sees if there's anything with a low enough score that it might be what you meant. And as you can see, like from the first one I did, where there was no key that was even close to what's it doesn't bother to try suggestion. Which reminds me, another thing about this is that we are, for this and for a few other things in GitOps that I won't try to list, we're trying hard to batch up error messages and warnings now so that it doesn't just die as soon as it hits the first error. So this is a good example of that. Like if you have a bunch of unknown keys, it's going to try to list them all rather than just failing on the first one so that you have to fix that, run it again, fix the next one, run it again, etc. So we should get a little bit easier time running those GitOps runs. Next up, using globs in GitOps. So for those of you who don't know what globs are wildcards in file paths. And one of the requests that we've had from customers was instead of having to list out, for example, all of your scripts in every path and hard coding them in there, to just provide the name of a folder and a wildcard that would load all the scripts from there. That way you can just add a script to that folder and your next GitOps run will just pick it up. So we added support for that. You can see this is kind of a fancy glob where it's only going to look for script, Bash or Linux or Windows or macOS scripts. So if we try running this, well, actually, I'll show you first. Nothing up my sleeve. There are no scripts on the workstations, and the scripts are all in this folder here. You'll see there's a couple of other scripts that don't have extensions. Those are going to get skipped by this glob. So we go in here and run it. Oh, I forgot to fix my key. And all of those scripts have been loaded. If I use just like a regular glob, just a regular star, it'll still work, but it's going to give you a little bit of a warning that there's a couple of files in those folders that are not actually scripts that it knows about, so it's going to skip those. This also works now on reports, on policies, and on labels. Reports here, I did an example of a double star blob, so this will actually go into subfolders and read the reports in there. So you can have whatever level of depth that you want. Questions about globs? Did I skip any things that we did globs for, Noah or Luke? I think it's policies, reports, scripts, and labels all support this now. Also, you can still do path in there if you wanted to do a single script. Can't put globs in path, can't put non-globs in paths. We made these explicitly two separate keys. Profiles. I don't think we did profiles. Yeah, Brock, we can put that on the list. Next up, multi-platform names for macOS setup, macOS settings, and more. Let's see which ones we have in here. So this is something that should delight everybody on MDM and myself and anybody who's worked with this. This key macOS setup, which had all of our setup experience keys underneath it, it's not been just for macOS for quite some time. So we finally got it renamed to setup experience. Like our other renames of team to fleet and report to query and etc., it's backwards compatible, but you can use these new keys. Similarly, macOS settings is now Apple settings because we have iOS and iPadOS under there. Custom settings is now configuration profiles because those are the only things that were ever under custom settings. And macOS Setup Assistant is Apple Setup Assistant. You can see examples of those keys in here, setup experience, Apple settings, configuration profiles. If you use the old keys and the deprecation warnings are turned on, you'll get a warning encouraging you to update to the new key. Yeah, it's been a long time coming for the setup experience change. We're excited about that one. Moving along. Okay, this one, allow omitting most top-level GitOps keys. This sounds scarier than it is. This is not, at the moment, making keys optional, per se. Labels has been optional for some time, but that's kind of a different story. This is basically just saying that if you leave a key, a top-level key out, it will have the same effect as what you see here, of just having it in there with no value underneath it. So, for example, I have this other team I made called Cool Team, and it's got nothing in there. And before, this would have raised an error and said you were missing all of these keys. But now we can do the Cool Team, and it'll just work, and it'll run the. Thank you, Cool Fleet. See, even me, I still. I mean, maybe the cool people, the cool team of people's on this fleet. You don't know what I meant. So yes, it will delete any resources that were into those keys. This is the same as if I just did software controls. So it's not necessarily that we're encouraging people to delete all these keys. It's more that what we're trying to do for new customers getting into GitOps is provide them with templates that have the minimal amount of stuff with just a bunch of comments in it to show them what else is possible in there, but not kind of overwhelming them with what you would get normally if you did generate GitOps, which, as you can see, like spits out the kitchen sink of everything. Most of these things are defaults, so they don't need to be in here, but we didn't support not having them before. Yeah, the behavior before was that you had, like, if you left any of these things out, it would just error, and now it does what this is doing. What's next? Sorry, moving right along. I know we only got a couple minutes. Policy YAML, add a Boolean to turn on policy webhooks. This is another one I think people will be excited about. So previously to 483, if you wanted to turn on your failing policy webhook for different policies, you had to put a policy IDs key under here. And there's a couple of problems with that, which I think we all know. First of all, customers shouldn't have to know about policy IDs, period. And secondly, you couldn't do this in one go because you'd have to first get the policies created, then go back and get the IDs, and then list them under here. So we have updated this so that now you can put these in the policies themselves with this new webhooks and tickets enabled key, which can be either true or false. And when you put it in there, it has the same exact effects that list used to have. So if you go to policies in here, you'll see, the list of ones that you put true for will be listed, and checked here. If you try to use both of these things at the same time, it'll error because you kind of have to have one source of truth. So you can't use the policy IDs list and this. And then in Fleet 5, we'll just get rid of the list. I saw a question from Sarah about if there's a warning when you remove a top level key. Not at the moment. I mean, there wasn't a warning before when you put the thing in there saying, with no data, but I get how this is slightly different. So that's maybe a good idea to think about. Again, people who are existing customers are going to have these keys in there anyway. It's mainly for new customers that will start without them and then iterate towards them having the keys they need for the configuration they need. A little front end change here. This is real quick. We reorganized the columns on the manage host page to be the things that people look at most often. So fleet that you're in is first, got the disk space a little bit closer. We don't have all these things on by default, but if you turn them all on, you'll see that the order of them has changed, but it's the same columns, just different order. And last but not least, coming right at the wire, update fleet control on front end to use new API URLs and params. Not the sexiest, but the fact is that we're trying to turn on these deprecation warnings for customers to see when they're using the now deprecated API parameters and the URLs, and encourage them to migrate to the new ones. But if our front end and fleet control are using all the old keys, it means it would generate a whole ton of deprecation warnings on the server that they would not be able to fix, because they'd have to go into our code and change it in order to do that. So big effort to just change all of the client code that sends APIs to the server, and the front end code that makes API requests to use all the new keys, so that we ourselves are not creating deprecation warnings. And that is it for the first impressions group right at 12:30. Luke, anything else you want to talk about?
Right on the nose. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. A lot of great user experience improvements here. These are things that we've known about for a little while, and it's just been hard to prioritize against all the other product work, which is why we put this group together to focus on these type of, especially first impression user experiences. So thanks for working on that. Thank you to everyone else. I'm going to see some of you later today, and for the rest, have a good weekend.
Cheers, everybody.